Have you ever sat in a waiting room, clutching yet another appointment slip, wondering if all these checkups are really helping or just giving you more to worry about? You're not alone. As we age, it can feel like our calendars are dominated by medical visits. Blood work on Monday, scans on Wednesday, and maybe a follow-up the following week, and sometimes you leave those appointments with more questions than answers. The truth is that not every health test is necessary after a certain age. Some of them can cause more stress, harm, and risk than benefit, especially after the age of 70. Now, that might sound surprising. We've been told our whole lives to stay on top of our health, get regular screenings, and catch problems early. And yes, that's important, but there's another side to the story, one that doesn't get talked about enough: overtesting, overdiagnosis, and the quiet burden of unnecessary treatments that can follow. That's what we're going to unpack today. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's talk heart to heart about the 5 health checkups you may want to rethink after 70. These sound helpful on the surface, but in reality, they might be doing more harm than good, especially when your body and priorities are changing. Let's start with one that surprises a lot of people: the PSA test for prostate cancer. If you're a man in your 70s or older, you've probably had a doctor mention the PSA blood test at some point. It's simple, right? A little blood is drawn to check for signs of prostate cancer. But here's the thing: after age 70, this test becomes a lot less valuable and a lot more risky. Why? Because prostate cancer often grows very slowly. Many men have it and are unaware. It doesn't cause symptoms. It doesn't shorten life. But the test, it can set off a chain reaction. Elevated PSA levels can lead to biopsies, which aren't always pleasant or safe. They can lead to anxiety, worry, and in many cases, aggressive treatments like surgery or radiation treatments that carry serious risks of incontinence, impotence, or complications that affect your quality of life. And often, those treatments are for a cancer that would never have caused any harm in the first place. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean you should never talk about prostate health with your doctor. If you're having symptoms, absolutely speak up. But for routine screening in healthy older men, especially if you're not having any issues, it's okay to say, let's hold off. Your peace of mind and comfort matter just as much as what's on a lab result. Now, let's shift gears to something many women over 70 have dealt with: mammograms.
We've been told since our 40s to get them regularly, and for good reason. Early detection saves lives. However, once you reach your 70s, the conversation begins to shift, especially if you're in good health and not experiencing any breast symptoms. Here's why. Like prostate cancer, many breast cancers found in older women grow slowly. Some never grow at all. However, a mammogram might still reveal them, and once it does, the pressure to take action kicks in. That can mean biopsies, surgery, radiation, or even chemotherapy. And those treatments, they come with side effects that become more pronounced as we age. We're not bouncing back the way we did at 50 or 60 years old. Additionally, the chances of the mammogram saving your life begin to diminish. The benefit becomes smaller, while the potential harm, physical, emotional, financial, gets bigger. So, if you're 75, healthy and feeling fine, it might be time to talk with your doctor about whether mammograms still make sense for you. It's not about giving up. It's about being thoughtful with your time, your energy, and what you need at this stage of life. And let me say this: these aren't easy decisions. They can feel like a tug of war between caution and confidence, between fear and freedom. But that's why it's so important to be informed, to have open conversations, and to know that you have a say in your care. All right, let's move on to another checkup that often gets overlooked: colon cancer screenings, especially colonoscopies. Now, if you've had a colonoscopy before, you know it's not a walk in the park. The prep alone is a whole ordeal: fasting, drinking that solution, spending a lot of time near the bathroom. And while it's a vital test earlier in life, by the time you're in your 70s, or especially your 80s, the balance starts to shift. For one thing, if you've had regular colonoscopies in the past and you're not having any new symptoms, the chances of finding something dangerous are much lower. Meanwhile, the risks associated with the procedure increase. Things like bleeding, perforation, or complications from sedation become more common the older you get. And let's be real, recovery isn't as quick anymore either. A procedure that's considered routine for someone younger might take more out of you at this stage. So again, this isn't about ignoring your health. If you're experiencing digestive issues, changes in your bowel habits, or pain, it's essential to get it checked out. But if everything's been normal and your last test was clear, it's okay to ask, "Do I need to do this again?" Chances are your doctor will agree that you can skip it, especially if you're feeling well and living a healthy life. This comes down to something significant: focusing on the care that improves your life, not just adding more appointments to your calendar. After 70, it's not about doing everything, it's about doing what matters. Now that we've discussed tests like PSA, mammograms, and colonoscopies, there's another type of screening that might sound helpful but can lead to confusion and unnecessary worry: cognitive screening for dementia. Now, this one might feel a little tricky because, let's face it, we all forget things sometimes. You walk into a room and can't remember why. You misplace your glasses, then realize they were on your head the whole time. Sound familiar? Naturally, when these little slip-ups start happening more often, it's easy to wonder, is this just aging or something more serious? Many doctors will suggest a brief screening test during your visit, something like asking you to recall a few words, draw a clock, or perform a simple mental calculation. But here's where things get complicated. These tests are just snapshots. They're not perfect. All sorts of things can influence them, such as not getting enough sleep the night before, feeling anxious, or even having poor hearing and missing part of the instructions. What happens next? If your score is off, you may be referred for additional testing. Maybe an MRI. A complete neurological evaluation could be possible, and it's too much of that can bring a wave of stress, not to mention the cost and time. In some cases, a person ends up with a diagnosis that may not even be accurate, or that identifies mild cognitive changes that wouldn't have caused any real problems for years, if ever. Here's the part we don't talk about enough. The moment you get labeled with a cognitive impairment, everything changes. It can affect your confidence, how others treat you, your insurance, and even your independence. And most of the time, no treatment changes the course of things. So, unless you or your family are noticing fundamental changes in your day-to-day life, like trouble managing bills, getting lost in familiar places, or forgetting appointments often, it might not be helpful to go searching for problems that haven't shown up yet. Your brain is still yours, and aging doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you might need to give yourself a bit more grace when names slip your mind, or you forget where you put the remote. That's okay. It happens to all of us. And now, there's one more checkup I'd like to discuss that often catches people off guard. It's the annual full body scan, or full bear. Might seem like a great idea at first glance. After all, who wouldn't want to catch everything early, right? That's how they're marketed, like a safety net for your health. But here's the truth. Full body scans in healthy people, especially older adults, often do more harm than good. These scans can pick up what doctors call incidental findings. That's a fancy way of saying little spots, shadows, or changes in your body that probably aren't dangerous, but that nobody can ignore once they're seen. And that opens the door to more testing, more biopsies, and, in some cases, surgeries that were never needed in the first place. Think of it like this. Your body has been through a lot over the years. Some wear and tear is expected. Scans will find things because we're not 30 anymore, but most of those things aren't a threat. They're just part of being a human who's lived a whole life. The problem is, once they're found, the medical system kicks into high gear. And before you know it, you're on a path of follow-ups, consults, maybe even treatments, sometimes for things that never would have hurt you at all. That's not health. That's a hamster wheel. And at this stage in life, the goal isn't to go looking for trouble. It's to live with comfort, joy, and clarity. To be present. Enjoy your days without unnecessary worry. If something feels wrong, yes, absolutely get it checked. But routine full-body scans, just to be safe, they're often more anxiety than assurance. So, what should we focus on instead? What matters now is your quality of life. How you feel, what you can do, what brings you joy. That's where your energy should go, not to chase ghosts on test results that don't change anything meaningful. I want to pause for a moment here and remind you of something important. You are the expert on your body. Not every guideline, suggestion, or test is suitable for every person. You get to ask questions. You get to say no. You get to choose what kind of health journey makes sense for you. Doctors are there to help, not dictate. And the very best ones will listen when you say, "I'm not sure this test is right for me." They'll work with you, not just for you. That's what real healthcare looks like. Care that cares. As we consider all these checkups, PSA tests, mammograms, colonoscopies, cognitive screenings, and full-body scans, it's not about avoiding everything. It's about choosing wisely, and that means tuning in to what your body is telling you, not what a checklist says. Next, there's one more type of checkup we need to talk about. It's not as well known, but it's growing in popularity, and unfortunately, in unnecessary consequences too. That's genetic testing. It sounds futuristic, doesn't it? Spit in a tube, send it off, and within weeks you get a colorful chart of your DNA, what diseases you might get, what conditions might run in your family, and what medications work best for you. It's fascinating, however, being a minefield, especially after a certain age. Here's what often gets overlooked. Just because a test can tell you something doesn't mean you need to know it.
Let's say the test shows you have a genetic variant linked to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or a specific type of cancer. What do you do with that information? At 40, you may want to consider making long-term plans, adjusting your lifestyle and taking preventive measures. But at 70, 75, even 80? Many of these diseases take decades to develop. The odds of them impacting your actual health in the years ahead may be very small. But the anxiety? That shows up right away. Suddenly you start wondering if every little ache is something bigger. You second-guess yourself. Your family worries more. And once something is on your medical record, it's hard to undo. Some people are denied specific insurance. Others find themselves pushed into more testing or, quote, monitoring that never seems to end. And often, nothing changes. No treatment, no cure, no real benefit. It was just a storm of what-ifs and restless nights. Now, this isn't to say that genetic testing is destructive. It can be instrumental in certain situations, especially when there's a strong family history of a specific condition or if your doctor needs that information to choose the safest medication. But as a general health checkup, is it something you do just to, quote, see what's there? It can open doors you might not want to walk through. At this point in life, your focus should be on how you feel today, not what might happen in some theoretical future that may never come. It's not about giving up curiosity or ignoring science. It's about protecting your peace, preserving your joy, and ensuring your health journey supports your well-being, not your worries. All of these tests we've talked about, PSA, mammograms, colonoscopies, cognitive screenings, full-body scans, and now genetic testing, will tell us something in common. They can shift the focus of your life away from living and toward diagnosis, toward managing things that might never cause you harm, while overlooking the beauty of a day spent walking, laughing, connecting, or simply resting without fear. Because here's the truth, being healthy doesn't mean being tested for everything. It means being able to do what matters to you, to move your body without pain, to think enough to make choices, to enjoy meals, hugs, stories, and the little moments that make up a beautiful day. That's real health. Now, maybe some of this is striking a chord. Perhaps you've had a test in the past few years that felt unnecessary or left you feeling more confused than helped. You're not alone. More and more older adults are starting to speak up and say, I want care that fits my life now, not the life I had 20 years ago. And this is so important. You are allowed to change your mind. Just because you used to take a test every year doesn't mean you have to continue doing so. Just because something is recommended on paper doesn't mean it's right for your unique body. Your story matters. Your comfort matters. Your choice matters. And when you take the time to think about whether a test will help or harm, whether it's genuinely needed or just habit, you are practicing a deeper kind of self-care. One that says, I trust myself. One that says, I don't need to chase every worry. One that gives you permission to slow down and live more fully. So let's take a breath together. Let go of the idea that more testing always means better health. Let go of the pressure to do everything just because it's offered. And instead, let's turn towards something more powerful. Intention. Choosing wisely. Choosing joyfully. Choosing based on who you are today, not the fear of what might happen tomorrow. You've earned that right. You've lived through enough to know what matters. And if a test doesn't give you peace, clarity, or a path forward that improves your life, It's perfectly okay to say, "No, thank you." It's more than okay. It's wise, it's strong, and it's a beautiful way to honor your body and your time. Now, before we wrap up, let's take a quick breath and reflect on where we are. We've discussed how over-testing can sneak in quietly, and how tests that sound helpful can sometimes drain your energy, confidence, or calm. But what's most important is this. You have the power to decide what kind of health care supports your life, not interrupt it. So, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the appointments, checkups, and pressure to stay ahead of every possible illness, just know that sometimes the best thing you can do for your health is to live it. To walk in the sun, to listen to your favorite music, to eat a meal that makes you smile, to talk with someone you love. Those are the kinds of things that truly add years to your life, and life to your years. And here's something I'd love to know. How have you handled the flood of health advice after 70? Have you ever said no to a test or wished you had? What kinds of care truly make you feel supported and seen? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. You never know who might be helped by your experience. If you found this helpful, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps more people see it. And if you'd like more honest, uplifting, and practical health tips just like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We've got so much more to explore together. Because here's the thing. Life after 70 isn't about slowing down. It's about living smarter, brighter, and more on your terms. And you deserve nothing less. Here's to living your healthiest, happiest life at any age.